Hello everybody, welcome to my channel. Today we have an amazing problem for you guys, right? It's called average salary excluding the minimum and the maximum salary, right? So very interesting. So let's see what it's all about. You're given an array of unique integers, right? Salary, where salary of I is the salary at the index for the employee, right? So it says to return the average salary of employees excluding the minimum and the maximum salary, right? Answer should be within the 10 to the power of -5 of the actual answer will be accepted, right? Okay. Pretty straightforward description, problem statement, right? So we're giving unique integer values, right? And then we need to find, right, which somehow represents the salary of each employee, right? And we need to find the average of the salary, right? But there's a little bit of a thing, right? Excluding the minimum and the maximum salary, right? Okay, okay, we understand that. So we get the salary here, right? You know, a bunch of numbers, and the average is 2,500, right? But the minimum and the maximum, right, are not accounted for in the average, right? So they excluded that, right? So we could see that we have 1,000 and 4,000, right? 4,000 the maximum and 1,000 the minimum, right? They weren't accounted for. So we only did the two middle one, right? 2,000, 3,000 divided by 2, right? Because there's two of them, right? There's not four, right? Because we excluded the minimum and the maximum, right? So therefore they're not accounted for. So that's where we end up with this one, right? You know, there's four numbers and two of them are the maximum and the minimum, so they're not accounted for, right? So this one is interesting as well. So there's only going to be one number, right? Because there's three numbers and at least two of them, right? It's not going to be in there, right? And we're sure of that because they're unique, right? So yeah, okay. So therefore we only have, so the minimum is 1,000 and the maximum 3,000, and we only left with 2,000 and with one number. So the average is 2,000, right? So we kind of understand whatever they're asking us, right? We understand a little bit better now. And I think going through the examples, we kind of have some kind of intuition, right? To, solve this, right? So we know how to get an average, right? You know, get the sum, right? And then divide it by the total numbers, right? That you summed up, right? So if you were doing all four numbers, right, we would get the sum of all four numbers, right? And then divide it by 4, right? And then that would be the average, right? But, right, this one, we need to exclude the minimum and the maximum, right? So, yeah, so we know that, the amount of numbers, right, that we sum up, right, is going to be, whatever the total is minus 2, right? Because there's two numbers that we're gonna be getting rid of anyway. At least two numbers, right? All right. Okay. And then what else? The sum as well, right? We just, make sure that after we sum up all the numbers, right, we don't account for the minimum and the maximum, right? That means that, how do we do that? We're gonna need to keep track of the minimum and the maximum, right? So they say if we were to do a linear loop, right, as we do the loop, right, we keep track of the minimum and the maximum, right? So at the end of our iteration, right, we could simply subtract the minimum and the maximum from the total sum that we have, right? So that we don't account for it, right? And then we need one extra thing, right? Because we not account for them anymore, right? We subtract -2 to the total number of numbers that are available to us, right? There's two of them that's not accounted for, so because of that, we stay with 2, right? And then we get the total sum divided by the number of elements, right, that we're considering, right? And then we get our simple average, guys, right? As simple as that, right? So hopefully the whole thing makes sense, right? Let's quickly go ahead with the code. I think the code will make even more sense, right? So what we're gonna do, guys, we're gonna get the sum. Initially, we're gonna have to 0, and then we're gonna have a min and a max. So what we're gonna initialize it to a very big number. All right. And then our max, we're gonna initialize it to a very small number. Okay. And then we'll loop through the salaries, right? Let's make this thing more descriptive, right? Salary, right? So that we can call our variable salary, right? Because it represents one salary. Okay. And we got our salaries, right? And if you know we have salaries, right? And then what we're gonna do here, we're gonna add that salary to our sum, right? Because we're gonna sum up all the different salaries, right? And then as we do that, we're also gonna keep track of the min number that we have, right? Which will give us the minimum number, the minimum salary, right? At the end of the iteration, right? This is an important step to do, right? Don't forget it. And the max, right? The max it will be max salary as well. Okay. And after we do that, what's next for us? So we get it, we get that, right? So when we start to do some post processing, right? So what we need to do is we said that the total size, right, will be, salaries, right? ln, it's total numbers, right? Total different numbers, right? Minus 2, right? We do minus 2 because there's two numbers that we're not accounting for, which is the minimum and the maximum, right? So I want to make sure that it makes sense to you guys, right? Why I'm doing this, okay? And after we do that, we also need to subtract, right? Subtract so that we can just return the sum minus the man number, right? So we minus the max as well, right? And divided by the total, right? So before we do that, right, we need to cast everything to a double, okay? And yeah, I think let's press submit, see if we look good. We're good, right? Fully everything makes sense. Press submit. Awesome, guys. We passed all the test cases. So yeah, this is a very nice problem. I like it. So if you guys like this problem as well, right, or you like my explanation, let me know that in the comment section. If you're new here, subscribe because we'll be doing a lot of other videos just like this one. So I want to thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.